Families in Action is brought to you by your local hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. We've been on the air going on 13 years, which is pretty awesome.
It's wondrous.
It is. That's a long time to do anything, isn't it?
It is. Think of that in terms of if this was a television show on the network.
Right. Oh, it's a long time.
That's several lifetimes of television.
That's the truth. So that's pretty exciting. And we want to thank KHTS for all the work that, not just with the show, but all the work they do here in Santa Clarita.
Carl and Jerry, they were one of the sponsors of the drug take back that we're going to talk about.
They were. They're one of our local heroes here in Santa Clarita. And it's also brought to you by Action Family Counseling, which is alcohol and drug rehabilitation centers, and the Action Foundation. I'll let you talk about it, Mike.
Cary, we got to talk about the Action Family Foundation was added again on Saturday with the drug take back, the SCV drug take back. And we got more drugs this time than last year.
We did by about 7 pounds.
7 pounds.
7 or 8 pounds.
We squeaked by.
But we did it.
We did it.
We passed it. We got 13 boxes and 135 pounds.
We did. It was such a beautiful day. And people, again, they were able to just drive up there. Some of them didn't even get out of their cars. They just passed us the bag full of whatever. And we said, thank you very much. And you know what I found interesting?
What are we talking about for the people who don't know?
For the people that don't know, good thing to bring up, Cary.
Sometimes I get lucky.
Well, people have drugs that are either expired or maybe they don't need them anymore because someone was ill and now they're not, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Or even illegal drugs that they want to get rid of. And so we provide the opportunity for them to drop off their drugs, no questions asked. They don't have to say a word. It's just, here it is. And we put them in boxes, and the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, takes them when we're through with the take back. They incinerate them, and so they are gone. And it's this is a way to get rid of your drugs where you don't have to flush them down the toilet, which is a terrible thing to do anyway. You don't want to put them down.
Or throw them in the trash can.
Yeah, or throw them in the trash can.
Found.
That's exactly right.
But so many people came and said, "I've been waiting for this. I didn't know what to do with my drugs."
I know. I heard that. So many people we were thanking them for coming by, and they always said, "No, thank you for providing this service."
Because they had no idea what to do with this stuff.
Exactly. No.
And some of these people filled up a box.
Yeah.
I mean, they had cancer drugs from loved ones. They had just pain medications that were left around. All kinds of sleep aids. I mean, you name it.
It was interesting because some of the people would come up and they would kind of whisper to us, "Is it okay if I drop off?" And then they would mention what it was.
Right.
And it wasn't illegal. It was just that they knew that it was very powerful drugs, and they wanted to make sure that it was okay that they included those. And of course, it was.
Well, every hour, as we know, and this is the latest statistics, go back 2 years, so you can figure out the numbers are a lot worse now. But we have 5 overdoses an hour here in this country.
5 deaths.
5 overdose deaths, accidental overdose deaths. That's not including the other ones by suicide or all the other craziness that comes with drugs. Now, if we took 135 pounds off the streets, I know they did about the same at the sheriff's station. Kaiser got like 3,000 pounds. And
it was huge.
All over the country. Imagine the drugs that have been taken out of medicine cabinets, out of the reach of children.
Yeah.
So you could say, yeah, kids die, people die every hour, but I guarantee you this drug take back saved some lives. We'll never know it because they're not dead.
Exactly. And I know, as you do too, that some of the things that were dropped off, if that got in the hands of some teens or whatever, oh my goodness.
These were deadly drugs. I mean, they handed them to us. I saw everything from Vicodin to oxycodone. I've seen liquid morphine
Morphine,
had.
right.
I mean, you name it. Benzos, all kinds of stuff. Muscle, everything you could think of.
And a big thank you to everybody that dropped off their drugs, by the way.
Yeah. It's really taking care of our community and really, really giving a message that we don't want any more kids to die. We don't want any, but not just kids. We don't want any more people to lose their lives to an accidental drug overdose. It's very preventable.
And a lot of the people were kind of feeling badly that they had the drugs in their garage or whatever, and they just didn't know what to do with them. And so now they know that if they hang on to them a couple times a year, They've got a great place where they can drop them off, no questions asked. It takes, all of a couple of minutes and you're done.
A couple of minutes. You can always call your pharmacy. A lot of pharmacists are taking them right now, and they're getting rid of them in an appropriate way. I know at the sheriff's department, there's two kind of looking mailbox things in the front, and there's one for sharps. There's one. I mean, I don't know if sharps. There's one for whatever drugs and one for other drugs.
It's a drug drop off.
So just put them in there. Nobody looks at your plates. Nobody cares what you're doing. And if you're just panicked and you're afraid you don't know what to do, call me. I'll help you figure it out.
Yeah, the only thing that we're having a little bit of trouble figuring out what to do with really are what's known as sharps, but those really, that translates to needles.
Yes, and I'm talking, I mean, Harry from the hospital came over and he's thinking about putting up a thing out there for that.
Trying to figure out if they can do that.
Yeah, so we're looking into that kind of stuff. But hey, for the people who don't know what to do with it or didn't come and have those kind of drugs in their house, please protect yourself, your family, and anyone else coming in your house. If you have any of those kind of pills that are prescription pills, put them in a lock. Lock them up. Don't leave them in your medicine cabinet. Who knows who's addicted to these drugs? Anybody can walk in.
That's right.
And look in your medicine cabinet and get themselves in trouble. I've been treating people for 30-something years, and the faces of addiction has changed dramatically. It really has. I mean, we're treating everyone from your street addict that you would normally look at and say, "Oh my," to cops, to doctors, to lawyers, to nurses, because of the pain medication epidemic. So the faces of addiction has completely changed. You have no clue who's using drugs anymore.
And you can't assume. You could sit there and say, well, my child would never do that. Well, what about their friends? You don't know.
Exactly. You never know. I mean, in real estate, they're having issues, right?
They sure are. I was amazed the first time I found this out that people would actually go out of their way to go to open houses just so they could get into the medicine cabinet. And all they have to say is, "Excuse me for a moment, I need to go into the restroom."
Right.
And when they're in the restroom, they pull a little bag out of their pocket, fill it up with whatever was in the medicine cabinet, and away they go.
Or they go through the drawers when they can't do it if they're left alone. And I know a lot of the real estate people right now are telling people, hide your jewelry, hide your drugs.
Yeah. So when the owners leave the house, one of the things they're being told to do is to put any drugs, anything they have in the medicine cabinet, put it in a container and take it with them, so that somebody's not going to be able to get in there and help themselves to whatever may be in the medicine cabinet.
Yeah, and a lot of people, we go to the doctor, we have a back problem, muscle spasms, they give you medication, you take them, and your back starts feeling better, you stop.
Yeah, you might not need to take them all.
But you don't want to throw them away. You want to save them for a rainy day if there's an emergency. And we're not saying don't. We're just saying make sure they're safe and locked up.
That's right.
So, I mean, we really need to pay attention to what's going on right now and realize that these are dangerous drugs that really can do some damage.
That's right.
Yeah.
You ready for an action item, Cary?
I am really ready for it, Michael.
Oh, this action item is actually going to lead into our discussion today, which we're going to be talking about marijuana in the teenage brain, but for a little bit of a different reason. And that's because California's general election is coming up November 8th, and we are going to be looking at Proposition 64, which is basically the legalization of recreational marijuana. Now, listen to this. A new study by the Pugh Research Center finds 57% of U.S. adults say they support legalized marijuana. A decade ago, only 32% of adults said they favored legalization. Adults ages 18 to 35 are more than twice as likely to support legalization of marijuana as they were in 2006. On the November 8th ballot, 5 states, Massachusetts, Maine, California, Arizona, and Nevada, will all vote on whether to legalize the recreational use of marijuana. And Cary, I know that you've told me on a number of occasions that you believe that it's going to get legalized here in California.
Yeah, absolutely I do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost ridiculous that it's not, because nobody really pays much attention to it. The deputies don't even really arrest anybody for it anymore. They'll still cite people every once in a while, but so many people say, they got pulled over and they just sent me home. It's it's I don't even know where to go with it. I mean, because I've been in this business for 30-something years, and I'm not going to debate if it should be legal or not. But what I am going to say is I see the devastation of that drug, that one in particular, especially the last few years, for a lot of reasons. Number one is it's gotten so much more potent that it's not what it used to be. That's number one. Number two, so many children are using it right now. I mean, hey, if you're 40 or 30 or 50 or whatever it is you are and you want to go and smoke that stuff, go for it. But when you have a kid that is using this drug, it's pretty darn dangerous. And I've seen what happens. I mean, I can get into it really, really easy. I mean, these kids, well, go where you're at, and then I'll talk more about it. I'm on a roll, and I just need to relax when it comes.
I'm just going to lead us into this discussion a little bit more. This ballot that we're talking about, Proposition 64, it's going to ask voters to make a tremendous leap of faith. Because the fact is, the health effects of marijuana consumption are still not fully understood, particularly the long-term regular consumption of today's high-potency cannabis products, which is what you just spoke about.
This is what I just said.
It is known that young people whose brains are still developing, and that would be the teens all the way up into about the mid-20s, that they can suffer long-lasting effects and are at increased risk of addiction and mental disorders from frequent use.
And we see that all the time.
We can say that for sure because we work in the behavioral health unit at Henry Mayo Newhall Hospital.
And I've watched this through my drug rehabs really take off in the last 5 or 6 years because of the potency of the marijuana when it comes to children. And then if anybody wants to debate that, give us a call.
Sure.
I mean, here's the number. It's what is it? It's used to be right there. It's not there anymore. What's the phone number here now? I don't see it. Justin, what's our phone? 298-5487. 298-5487. You could jump into this conversation, but go ahead, Michael.
Well, continuing on, additionally, we know that a new marijuana industry similar to big tobacco has emerged. Listen to this. The former head of strategy for Microsoft has said that he wants to, quote unquote, mint more millionaires than Microsoft with marijuana and wants to create the Starbucks of marijuana. Marijuana food and candy are being marketed to children and are already responsible for a growing number of marijuana-related ER visits. Edibles with names such as Ring Pots and Pot Tarts are inspired by common candy and dessert products appealing to children. Also, several profitable vending machines containing products such as marijuana brownies are emerging. And let me throw this out.
Gummy bears. I mean, you name it, they have it with THC in it right now. Who are they marketing it to?
So I want to say something
Adults?
to the...
I don't think so.
No, not hardly.
I think so.
I want to say this to our listener who may have children. Here's some questions for the parents. If you knew that more kids enter treatment with a primary diagnosis of marijuana dependency than all other illicit drugs combined, you'd talk to your child, right?
Say that again.
If you knew that more kids enter treatment with a primary diagnosis of marijuana dependency than all other illicit drugs combined, you'd talk to your child about that, right?
Marijuana what? Dependency. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure people heard that.
And if you knew that kids who use marijuana are more likely to fail in school, have sex, or do other drugs, you'd do what you could to prevent it, right?
No.
Okay.
You know why I say that?
Why?
Because if you look at it, adolescent drug rehabilitation centers right now, across the board, census is down, meaning the numbers are down. And here's why. Years ago, let's just say 5 years ago, when somebody came in and drug tested their kid, adolescent, and it showed all kinds of THC, the parents would freak out. The kids would get treatment, outpatient. I mean, some kind of counseling that would help them not go any further. In today's society, with the lack of worry about marijuana, when parents call up and say what was in their drug test, and we say it was really high with THC, they go, okay, thank you, that's fine, and they hang up. So they don't want to get any help because they just give up. They figure everyone's doing it. Now, if you take a look at adult population in rehabs, it's exploding. They're opening them up on every corner. Opiates we're having an epidemic. People are dying. It's insane. Wonder if you can do figure out any comparison why kids aren't getting treatment and adults are getting worse. And most, what's filling up our adult programs? I own them. 18 to 25.
18 to 25.
And
there
guess
you
what
go.
Most everyone started with?
And their brains are still forming.
And most of these people started with marijuana, cigarettes and marijuana and alcohol. And what happens is they get desensitized. It's not such a big deal anymore. And they go further. So because kids aren't getting treatment, they're dying a little bit later.
And we've had some folks that were in rehab at your facilities on this program, and you asked them how they got started. And I remember one young lady said, I was smoking marijuana.
Well, you know my
and I was smoking
speech,
marijuana.
Right?
Oh, yeah. But what she said was, I got to the point where that's all I wanted to do was smoke marijuana. I didn't want to do anything else.
We have people that call our drug rehabs for their kids. 13 and up, we put them in our rehabs, right? I have people calling me to put their 12-year-olds in, and they're chronic pot smokers. And I'll tell you what, those kids really, I'm not willing most of the time to take them to short-term treatment. They need to go to long-term because their minds are so messed up from this drug. They don't care about school. They don't care about home. Their priorities is the pot. So we sent many kids out of state because all they want to do is stay home and smoke pot.
That's a big wow, Cary.
No, it's really frightening, Mike.
It is. And here's a number to put to that. 60% of teens currently in drug treatment programs like yours are dependent on marijuana.
60%.
Over half.
Yeah, we don't deal when it comes to children. We're not dealing. Well, it's changing right now. We're starting to deal with hardcore drugs with even kids, but it always starts with pot. But when we're dealing with young children, children 12 to 18, it's usually marijuana dependency. And I'm not going to just say they're not just playing with it; they're dependent on it. They're smoking this stuff daily, and it's taking over. Their schooling is suffering. Their ability to mature is suffering. Their short-term memory, their motivation is suffering. So we have a crisis with this. And I'm not even debating if it should be illegal or not. I'm just saying you better pay attention to what's going on to our children.
And you know, Cary, as I do too, but you know it even better than I do because you're right on the front lines with this, owning those facilities, that there are people out there, and we have listeners right now who are saying, hey, this isn't going to legalize it for kids. This is legalizing it for adults. Come on. You know better than that. Listen. I'm going to say this again. A new marijuana industry similar to big tobacco has emerged. The former head of strategy for Microsoft has said he wants to mint more millionaires than Microsoft with marijuana and wants to create the Starbucks of marijuana. Plus, they've got all these edibles with all kinds of fun names, and they've got vending machines with marijuana brownies. Tell me that's not targeting kids.
No, targeting, you figure it out. More people die from cigarettes than anything in the world, really. It causes cancer and all kinds of craziness. So we're going to now add marijuana out there, and we're going to believe, okay, you have to be 21 to get it. You don't have to be 21 to get it now. No. It's all over the place. So it's just going to make it a little more available for our children.
Actually, it'll probably make it a lot more.
It's really pretty sad, though. When I ask a lot of kids, where are you getting it? They're stealing it from mom and dad. So parents, you better pay attention to what's going on in your home. Let's go ahead and take a break, Michael. This is Families in Action on our hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.